first of all the people were told, like by the in the office, we said, Ehsaan ji aa rahe milne ko.
Okay.
So they thought Ehsaan ji will be some guy in some kurta pajama eating pan and all that. I thought went in shorts and chappals. So they say, you're Ehsaan. It was quite funny. I found a broken guitar on top of my cupboard. And apparently it was broken because some family member had a fight with some other family member and threw the guitar on there. That's what I found out later. So he said, you know what? He said, I'm the biggest filmmaker and you're saying no to me. I said, I'm not saying no to you. But I said, it's like not my space, I personally have left ShankarEhsaan-LOY about 20 times. I've taken my bag and gone home.
Hey guys,
this is Namit
and this is Piyush
और ये है ट्रिंग का टीपॉट
जिसमें ना ही ट्रिंग है ना ही टीपॉट
पर आपकी फेवरेट सेलिब्रिटीज जरूर है।
तो बेसिकली ट्रिंग का टीपॉट इज अ न्यू सेगमेंट दैट वी आर स्टार्टिंग जहाँ पे हम कैजुअली बात करते हैं आपके फेवरेट सेलिब्रिटीज के साथ।
और हमारे फर्स्ट एपिसोड में हमारे साथ में है एहसान सर।
So if you guys like this video,
हम पर एक एहसान करना कि आप ये वीडियो को आपके स्टोरीज पे दिखाना। देखा तूने मैंने कैसे एहसान
ये फनी नहीं होता है यार। We have with us Ehsaan sir. Sir, before going ahead, just wanted to understand what are those shoes? I really like those shoes.
These are Converse.
Converse
shoes, yeah.
Are you a shoe kind of a guy?
I'm a shoe and a sock guy.
Acha.
Yeah, so I always wear colorful socks.
and these are very fancy ones.
Because these are like antidepressants. You feel happy when you see them.
Oh, that's nice. So you must be having a whole collection of shoes?
Not too many, but yeah, a few.
Collection of socks.
But so collection of socks, yes.
So let's start with somewhere where everyone wants to know that now we know that this is Ehsaan sir and he's a maestro in what he does. But where did it start from? Where did that thing that no, I'm picking this guitar up and I'm just blowing the minds of the entire
Well,
world?
actually, it was quite funny. I found a broken guitar on top of my cupboard. And apparently it was broken because some family member had a fight with some other family member and threw the guitar on there. That's what I found out later. But anyway, I got that guitar repaired and I should literally just fool around. I mean, not play anything in particular. Then, I don't know if you remember a famous radio broadcaster called Amin Sayani, who used to do the Binaka Geetmala way before your time. But he was really famous. His son, Alan Sayani, was in school with me. 2 years senior to me. And he lived like 2 buildings down. One day I went to his house and he was playing guitar and he played me the opening part of a Beatles song called Here Comes the Sun.
Here comes the sun, here comes the sun, I say.
How old were you when you first picked up a guitar?
I first picked up a guitar when I was, actually no, I say 17. I think I must have been like 13 or 14.
Oh.
Yeah.
And in that time it was like very, very cool to pick up a guitar, like it's now.
No, it was. I mean, cool is now. I mean, cool was like even later on. But when you picked up a guitar, I mean, nobody knew that I was picking up a guitar.
So that time it wasn't like your Ehsaan knows how to
No.
That
not
it
at
was
all.
pretty chill.
I kept it quite low because I used to learn and all. It's only in the 10th standard. Then the 11th standard is when I started playing with a band, and then of course people recognized you and whatever, that kind of thing.
Right. You also learned with Mr. Rodrigues.
Yeah, Bismarck, right? Yeah.
And so how was that learning? How was he as a
He was fantastic. I mean, he taught me all my basics, which was very, very important because when I went to school in America, he, I had all that knowledge with me. I went to study music there. He was very, very encouraging. He used to always call me his champion, my champion, and but he was very encouraging.
Right.
Always say, oh, you played that superb and all that. Even if you're playing it wrong, he'd tell you to play it right, but others say, oh, that's superb. So eventually, I landed up playing in his son's band.
Oh, wow.
His son had formed a band called Pegasus, and I landed up playing guitar on that.
Oh.
So that was like the first thing of performing,
Right. And you obviously had, when you went out to California for studying music, you obviously had some background of it,
of course,
learning it.
Of course.
But what was something different that you learned there?
Oh my God. It's something different. See, the thing is basically just being in Los Angeles is so different.
Right.
And the school was on Hollywood Boulevard, and that itself was so different. Hollywood was known as Hollyweird at that time. I mean, my first exposure to LA was when I went to school in the lunchtime I came on. First of all, I took my guitar and I walked into a cafe which was full of Hells Angels, the motorcycle guys.
Okay, yeah.
And I started quaking. Those guys, dangerous guys. You heard stories about that. And they looked at me and says, hey man, you go to the guitar school. So I said, yes. Saying, very tough life, man. Tough life. Best of luck. God, I got out of there. And I got out of there onto Hollywood Boulevard and I saw a man, I mean, who the man, they even now talk about him, called the Silver Man. He was wrapped from head to toe like a mummy in aluminum foil.
Oh my God.
And he was walking down the street like that, you know, his face was painted silver. See, that time, Los Angeles and Hollywood was like, a lot of people went there with the dream of, you know,
Right.
becoming an actor or becoming a musician, you know, whatever, you know, it took. And a lot of them had broken dreams. And when they do that, they flip out completely, you know.
Right, of
so,
course.
so that's what, you know, that's what I saw firsthand.
And that must have been scary, of
And
course.
then when I went into school the first day, I was face to face with my mediocrity. I thought I was a good guitar player, and I was nowhere compared to people who were playing like 5 years and 6 years. So that's
Oh
all.
my God.
No, there you're in the country that has created the music.
Right.
You've grown up with rock and roll and blues and all playing on the radio.
Hmm.
You know, now we here to wait for somebody to bring an album from abroad and then copy it on a cassette and then share it.
Hmm.
So you're there in the middle of the music business, you know. But
Right.
it made a huge difference to me. And I wouldn't say as a guitar player, yes, as a guitar player too, but as a musician. You know, my songwriting skills, my arranging skills, a lot more, you know, in terms of the theory of music and stuff like that. And more than anything, your exposure to different
Right.
musicians, you know, that
So
it all.
how did you channelize your that knowledge to the Indian Bollywood?
Well,
thing?
it was. I mean, the thing is that I started composing jingles about 89 or something like that, and it was just that every time I'd compose something, I'd use my knowledge, you know, to make it sound different, and it did sound different, which is why Loy and I at one time were doing 200 jingles a year.
Oh my God.
You know, like we were the top jingle guys, you know, in the business.
Right.
Right.
And all of it sounded different, you know. And there was different styles. We'd bring, you know, African music, Japanese. We've done stuff for like Chinese products and like genuine Chinese music, you know.
Acha.
It's all from the exposure. Yeah. It's all from
How
the,
do you know that okay, this is like a Chinese music or this will work in China?
No, because it's needed, no.
Okay.
I mean, if you're doing, we did it was, I can't remember what it was, like a sauce, like one of the Chinese sauces. I mean, the film. But he's saying, I want the music to be genuine Chinese, you know.
Okay.
So we did it and it was genuinely Chinese. You know? I mean, of course, it was not recorded in China. It was China via, you know, Worldly Seaface. But it was Chinese all the same.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So, what do you think? Matlab, is education with respect to music? Is it really very important for people as
See,
well?
it works differently for different people. I mean, some of the greatest musicians in the world are not educated. But
Right.
then some of the greatest musicians in the world are also educated.
Educated, right.
So it works both ways, you know. I mean, somebody may have such talent. Look at Shankar Mahadevan.
Right.
He's not been to music school, but he's a maestro in whatever he can do.
Right.
He plays instruments, he sings, he can pick up a guitar and just start playing and it'll
Right.
sound great. So it works two ways. You know, if you're that gifted and you've got that thing, then you don't need to go to school. But I do believe my going to school helped me a lot,
Helped you
which
a
is
lot.
why so many people do go to music school.
Right.
Now, as you have taken Shankar sir's name, so can you talk about the entire ShankarEhsaan-LOY? So when I was a child, I used to know कि okay, ShankarEhsaan-LOY is one person.
Yeah, yeah.
ये तीन अलग-अलग
Yeah.
लोग नहीं है. तो मेरी बड़ी बहन ने, she told me नहीं, these are three different
Yeah.
people, and that is how you see them.
But actually, we were all working in the studios. Shankar was doing jingles and stuff also himself. I mean, like singing and you know that.
Right.
In fact, one of the first jingles he sang was for me.
Oh, wow.
One of the first ones where he actually sang words and not a lap. You know, just for me, for some cough kind of thing. I can't even remember what it was. Yeah. And so that was it. So we had contact with him all the time. And, you know, he was sometimes when Loy and I would do a jingle and I needed an Indian input in it.
Right.
He'd come and arrange it. You know that we'll call these dholaks and all that, and he'd supervise and play this pattern, play that pattern,
Right.
that kind of thing. And that was it. So we were working, and then Mukul Anand, who's the filmmaker, the famous filmmaker, he was doing ad films for a long time also, because he realized that ad films and all was more, the advertising business is more head on technology and stuff like that than the film thing.
Right.
So he thought that doing ad films for him would be very good. I mean, of course, the money is always there. That's a different point. But it's also for him to learn, the language of doing stuff, digitally and that kind of thing. And so he was doing ad films, and we were doing music for him. Loy and me mainly.
Right.
And he called me into his office one day. So I thought maybe he's calling me in for for another ad film. And he said, I'm making a film, feature film, and it's got like Sanjay Dutt and Salman Khan in it. My first reaction was, I said, no, I don't want to do it, because that time the film industry was weird.
Okay.
Right.
The 90s, what kind of films and all were going on, I didn't know, like.
Was that Das by any chance?
Das, yeah.
Das, right.
So he said, he said, I'm the biggest filmmaker and you're saying no to me. I said, I'm not saying no to you, but I said, it's like not my space,
Yeah.
first of all the people were told, like by the in the office was said, Ehsaan ji aa rahe hain milne ko.
Okay.
So they thought Ehsaan ji will be some guy in some kurta pajama eating pan and all that. I thought went in shorts and chappals. So they say, you're Ehsaan. So anyway, so we agreed to do it. I said, let me do it. She said, who do you want to work with? I said, see, Loy and I work together. And we'd like to involve Shankar because, with the Indian thing and all that. And so I spoke to Shankar. He said, 100%, let's do it.
That was your first.
That was it. We did it and never looked back.
And how was that experience?
It was beautiful. The first recording we did, actually, I've said the story many times because it's actually so funny, is that Nitin Manmohan, who was the producer, it's like poor guy, he passed away a few months ago. He was the producer and his family, his whole family business, Neha Arts, they were and Mukul's company is called MAD, Mukul Anand directs.
Right.
So they had a tie-up, like a merger, and they did things together. So the entire Neha Arts family had come, and the Pandit was there. He did all the puja, yevo. And so the guys from Nitin Manmohan and his brother were asking, Mukul, who are the music directors? Saying, all three of them as the music director. Achha, okay. They're not calling any violin players and all that. I said, no, they'll do all that themselves.
Wow.
Acha, who's the singer? He says, you see that guy, that fat guy standing there? He's the singer. So these guys said that this is going to be a disaster because it goes against every habit that they have or everything that they were used to about recording. Like Mehboob Studio, 100 musicians, So they said this is going to be a disaster. They came in the evening and heard the song that we had done. The first song that we did was a song called Chandni.
Chandni, right.
Chandni roop ki ya kiran dhoop ki.
And they heard it, and Sanjay Dutt and Salman Khan came and all that. They just freaked out on the song.
Okay.
So that's when they offered us. He said, do the entire film because I'd only agreed to do one song.
Okay.
So they said, do the entire film. She said, that was it, and literally that was the way it happened.
And then it started, and it is never ending. I mean,
Never ended.
obviously,
Touchwood,
it will
30
never
years
end.
later, we're
30
still
years
doing
later.
music. Yeah.
I've also heard that you guys don't have a written agreement anywhere.
Nothing.
It's just pure friendship and pure music.
That's it.
But still, I would want to ask, who is your 3am friend? Is it Shankar sir and Loy sir? Or
Well, actually, it's more like I think Loy would be. Loy and I are very close because we spend so much more time together. We've been on holidays together. In the jingle days, we used to be working together. So there's so much. We spend a lot of time together. We connect literally as intellectually and as friends.
Right, of course.
Not to say that I can't call up Shankar.
Oh,
Of course.
But, it's just that, it's a different relationship. with
Right,
Loy.
of course. In the whole trio now, you guys have been making music for so long now. Do you guys have any kind of joke while making music? Do you guys disagree on something?
All the time, every day. I personally have left ShankarEhSAAN-LOY about 20 times. I've taken my bag and gone home. I said I'm leaving the trio.
While
I'm not
making
playing with
music. And just because you disagreed on something.
Yeah. We do it every day, but that's the whole idea. No? Now it's come to a point where we maturely fight with each other.
Right, of course.
It's not like anyone storms out and stuff like that. We fight because the thing is that music is a very subjective thing. Everything can be beautiful.
Right.
This is lovely, that's lovely, this is lovely, everything, and you never know. So one of us has to be objective.
Of course.
To say that this is not working. I think.
And out of the three, who's like the matured one? Ke nahi yaar, settle kar dete hain. And who's
No,
the
not that way. No. We will indulge that argument till the song is correct.
Right.
So
we
you
always
like
do that. The other day we were doing something with Farhan. We fought.
Acha.
Again. Farhan is saying nothing has changed. That we guys.
From Dil Chahta Hai
From
till
Dil Chahta Hai
now.
till now.
Yeah.
Right.
As we have said Dil Chahta Hai, so we know what Dil Chahta Hai was. And I've read it somewhere where you said that me, Javed sir, Farhan, Shankar, everyone, we just went there for a holiday.
Khandala.
Khandala, and then we just did the music on the way sometimes. If we are writing, we are doing that. Just tell us something about
Well,
that.
actually, I remember driving up to Lonavala, it was raining like mad.
Okay.
We almost thought we wouldn't reach because it was so bad. And that time, this expressway and all was not ready. It was only half the way, and then after that, you had to. So we were driving in the car, listening to a lot of music loud. Farhan and Javed sir, I think, had already reached thing. So it's Loy, Shankar, I, and the engineer Benny. He was going with us, and we basically were listening to this album. I remember it was called the Afro-Celt Sound System.
Okay.
Combination between Celtic music and African music. And Shankar was saying we should do a song of this style for the film. So I said sure. So we didn't sing anything in the car. We reached Khandala. He immediately went on the keyboard and he started playing.
Wow.
We kept that idea in storage. You know, we hadn't composed a song around it. The first song we composed was Tanhai.
Oh wow. And how much time, if at all, you guys are in the space of creating? What is the quickest album or quickest song that
Well,
you've
the
made?
fastest song that I think the album would have been Kal Ho Na Ho, definitely, because we finished that whole album in 3 days. The
Oh my God.
ideas were not even 3 days, 2 days. One day was just indulgence.
Oh,
Because Khandala was nice and like thing, but and the quickest song that we've composed is Kal Ho Na Ho. That song was done in like 10 minutes.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
oh wow.
10 minutes that was done. And sometimes, like the longest it's taken us to compose one single song has been Where's the Party Tonight from Kabhi Alvida Na Kehenge. It's such a simple song, but it took us the longest. We just couldn't crack that song.
So now that you guys create so much and you already have to be in that right mind space, like it's been a while now. But how was lockdown for you? Like being in a right
Well,
space?
actually, we were working. At least I was working, on the background score of Tufan.
Right.
That was being done, and we were working. Like Shankar was in his home studio, so we things were being recorded there, sent to us, and that way. But I spent a lot of time. In fact, I took good advantage of that time to practice music, to do like a lot that I couldn't concentrate on, in other times.
Right.
So for me, then I started doing my Instagram live, which
Yeah,
became
right.
very popular.
And one song which is, you have done a lot of Bollywood movies, a lot of Bollywood songs, but one song that is, I think, a thing that is there in India is the 2011 Cricket World Cup song.
De Guma Ke.
Dego Make.
Yeah,
That is
yeah.
by far my favorite song, and
Yeah.
you just listening to it and you are like, okay, वो 2011 की memories वापस आ जाती है, धोनी.
Yeah, because as soon as Dhoni hit the six, they played De Guma Ke. Yeah. Actually, the thing is that we composed a couple of ideas. Then Manoj Yadav, the lyricist, he came up with this line De Guma Ke.
Okay.
So we just composed around that, and the word just came together.
Right.
And he wrote some nice words. Ere, pere,
And the entire campaign happened with a lot of different players where they showed
Yeah.
a lot of styles of
Yeah.
hitting a shot
Yeah,
and
yeah.
something, and even in that you were so gelled up. We loved the entire thing. I was a kid back then, but I still remember each and everything what happened
Yeah,
in the entire thing.
You're gonna see a lot more of me on Tring, and please subscribe to that on YouTube. A lot of fun stuff there, which I do myself like to watch.